What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be going over whether or not Sprocket is worth buying in Star Wars Hunters. As you guys will probably know by now, I have been doing these videos for pretty much every single hunter that I've bought. I haven't covered Utuni or Slingshot simply because they are now free through the progression system, but I have already done these for J3, Sentinel and Scorer, and then like I said, today we're going to be covering Sprocket. It does take quite a while to actually grind for the crystals to unlock these hunters, and so obviously it is a pretty big decision at the end of the day on which hunter you decide to buy, and so I'm essentially trying to give you guys a bit of a guide as to which ones you might like, which ones you might not like, just to make that decision a little bit easier, because like I said, it is a pretty big decision. Before we get into it, if you guys do end up enjoying the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There's going to be plenty more Star Wars Hunters content on the way throughout the rest of the year. But with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. So just like all the previous videos of this type, I'm going to be breaking this down into essentially a pros and cons list, and of course we will be starting off with the pros. The first big pro for Sprocket, and this is the exact same thing that I said for Scorer in the last video like this, is that Sprocket is a hell of a lot of fun to play, and for me this is probably one of the biggest things that I look for when I'm buying a new hunter, because just like I said in the last video, it doesn't matter how good or bad the hunter is. If they're not very enjoyable to play, then you're obviously not going to have fun playing them, and the whole point of the game is to have fun. So this is always one of the biggest things that I look for, and I can safely say that Sprocket is a hell of a lot of fun to play. Now Sprocket obviously falls under the support class, and he is a really good support hunter across pretty much every single mode in the game, and most specifically he is really good when it comes to support in control. Sprocket does have a very sort of lockdown type of playstyle. He's really good at sort of sitting in one area and kind of trying to take control of that area, and obviously in the game mode control, that is literally what you're trying to do. You're pretty much just trying to sit on the control point for as long as you can. So he definitely suits control a hell of a lot, and he, like I said, he is really good at the other modes as well, but he is noticeably better when it comes to control compared to escort and hardball. Now the other thing that I'll say is that out of all of the support hunters, the other two being Zaina and Scorer, in my opinion Sprocket is definitely the best when it comes to dealing damage. I do feel as though he is a little bit easier when it comes to essentially just playing the game as a more casual player and trying to get a bunch of kills. He is still by no means a slayer type of character. That's just not what he's meant to be doing. But if I had to rank all of the support hunters in the way of how much damage they deal and how good they are at getting kills, I do think that Sprocket is probably number one on that list. Now the other really good thing about Sprocket is that he is actually really good at supporting his team, not just through healing, but actually simply by locking down areas and essentially helping your teammates get more kills as well. When it comes to both Zaina and Scorer, they are essentially just exclusively healers. They don't really do anything else. Obviously they can both deal damage and they do still have their strengths of course, but in terms of support anyway, they are essentially healers. They don't support in any other way. But with Sprocket, he is actually really good at playing sort of like a defensive role. You can put down your turret and you can use your ability that essentially targets one enemy and makes them take more damage, and that's going to allow not only you to get more kills, but it's going to allow your teammates to get more kills as well. You can kind of lock down one area of the map, and either your teammates can sort of come in there and make the most of the damage that you're dealing to the enemies and they can pick up some kills, or in certain cases obviously you can have someone like Reeve or J3 on your team and they can kind of just go off and do their own thing because they know that you're kind of sitting there on the objective holding down that area by yourself. So like I said, with the other two support hunters, they are really just good at supporting their team in terms of health, but Sprocket can obviously give health to his teammate, and he's really solid at healing his teammates too, but he does have that sort of other dimension where he can be more of a lockdown sort of defensive type of hunter too, and then with his ability to increase the damage taken by the enemies, as well as his ultimate ability, which is pretty much just that on steroids, he can really help your teammates in other ways as well. So he's definitely not as good of a healer as Zaina and Scorer. If you're looking for just a specific medic type of hunter, then I'd say those two are probably the better option, but I would say that he's probably a better all-round support than those two. Now that's pretty much it for the pros, but moving on to the cons, he does have a few cons here that are definitely a little bit tough to get the hang of early on. The main one is that he is one of the slowest hunters in the entire game, and that can obviously be a bit of a burden if you're getting pushed by an enemy. I have found that pretty much anyone who tries to push you, they are going to do quite a bit of damage. Someone like Reeve and J3, if they get close to you, you are essentially dead. There is no way you're going to get away from them unless obviously they're low health or something. And then I feel like even Groz, who generally isn't that much of an issue to most of the other hunters in the game, even if Groz pushes you, you are too slow to really get away from him. He is a bit easier to handle for sure than Reeve and J3, but I do still think that Groz can be a bit of a tricky character to take care of, and so that's probably one of his biggest cons, is that his slow pace makes him pretty much terrible when it comes to essentially your survivability. Not so much in general, because he does actually have some pretty decent survivability at range, especially with his healing droid, but in terms of the close range type of gameplay, I would actually say he probably has some of the lowest survivability in the entire game. On top of that, the other downside of him being slow is obviously it just does take quite a while to actually get through the objectives, and so as good as he is in the objectives, like I said before, playing control, he's really good at holding that down. But if you do die and then the enemy team caps it, for example, it's going to take you quite a while to actually get back to the objective. And then as good as he is at that sort of defensive play, he's also not that great at sort of taking control of those points. He's definitely not a slayer, like I said. So when you are facing a really good team, he can definitely struggle a little bit in that way. And then, yeah, like I said, the pace really does let him down a little bit when it comes to sort of taking back those objectives. Overall, though, I do think that Sprocket is probably one of the more enjoyable hunters to play in the entire game. He has a very unique playstyle and sort of similar to Scorer, where he is very, very different from everyone else in the game. Obviously, all the hunters are somewhat different, but I do think that Scorer and Sprocket are probably two of the more unique hunters, and it's not really unique in a bad way either. It's a lot of fun, and if you do enjoy that sort of medic and just overall support type of play, then I do think Sprocket is a very worthy purchase. Now, him and Scorer are definitely very similar in a lot of ways, and obviously they both launched at the same time, so I have heard a lot of discourse about, you know, which one's best to buy. Personally, I bought Scorer first, and I'm definitely glad that I bought Scorer, but now that I have Sprocket as well, I do think that they're both equally as fun, to be honest. Scorer suits my playstyle more, so if you ask me which one to choose, I would definitely say Scorer, just because, yeah, she suits my playstyle more. She's a bit faster, she's more of a medic, but in saying that, I would actually also say that Sprocket is probably the easier of the two to play. His playstyle is a bit more like broad than Scorer's is. She's a bit more of a niche type of hunter, whereas I think sort of the more casual players will probably do a little bit better with Sprocket. So hopefully that does help you guys out a bit when it comes to choosing which hunter you want to buy. And if you're still not sure and it's really close between, you know, Scorer and Sprocket, for example, I would definitely recommend just going into the training ground and just seeing which one you enjoy more in there. Obviously that's not a perfect representation of actual gameplay, but that is pretty much the closest you can get to, you know, playing a hunter without actually buying them. So like I said, hopefully this helped you guys out, and if you're still not sure, definitely head into the training ground. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. I am right back on the grind, pretty much trying to earn crystals for the next 2 hunters that drop. I do assume that they're going to essentially be dropping 2 at a time just for balancing reasons, so it may still be a few months away, but I am definitely expecting a lot more hunters to come, and I'm going to be saving up those crystals so that when we do get new hunters, you guys can expect to see some quick breakdowns here on the channel to sort of help you guys figure out which ones you want to buy as well. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.